Infinity Publishing presents the 1-hour audio series. These 1-hour-long audiobooks are streamlined for fast learning and entertainment. Read by a professional reader or the author, the 1-hour audio series is an easy way to get the audiobook content you want.
Game of Destiny by J.S. Fowler. Chapter 1. Tom and Rebecca Miller grew tired of living in the big city. They wanted a smaller and quieter community and an environment that was more serene, so they migrated to Wilbrith. They moved into their new house over the weekend, and it took them several weeks to settle in. Both of their parents were visiting on Friday to see the place. Tom and Rebecca kept bragging about the house and the town so much, their parents wanted to see it for themselves. Tom and Rebecca browsed around the business section, slowly taking in the stores and buildings. Some looked old, some looked new, and some were under construction. Newton Home Improvement, Julie's Jewelry, and Henderson & Son Towing were the more appealing store names that they discovered on their tour. They went down a side street with no reason why. They just felt the urge. As they were walking in the middle of the street, on the right-hand side stood an ancient-looking store with hieroglyphics on the windows. Above the door hung a sign that read, "Mysteries from Beyond." Their unadulterated curiosity pulled them in. Once inside, the smell of mothballs and something else bombarded their nostrils. They beheld all kinds of strange and bizarre things. Shelves displaying fetuses in jars, which miraculously were still alive. Crossbred animals in cages. Hearts and arteries that seemed to still be pumping in tubes. Bizarre mutant-like worms in tanks. The list went on and on. Fear and amazement hit them at once. Suddenly, they entered the twilight zone. Logic was beginning to sink in, and the technical mindset kicked in. "Wow," said Tom. "These animatronics look pretty lifelike. They must be expensive." Tom got too close to a cage, and an ugly mutated rabbit grabbed his coat with its teeth and ripped the fabric within seconds. His countenance went from cool-headed to fear again when reality nearly bit him in half. "These things aren't animatronics. They're real. Isn't this against the law to even do? Let alone sell?" Rebecca frantically whispered to her husband. "Yes, I believe it is, sweetheart. People will do anything for a profit," Tom said in disgust. Suddenly, they heard someone clearing their throat. They turned to see a very nervous old man wearing an ancient-style dark clothing out of a medieval book. The medieval robe was a golden silk with long sleeves. The robe flowed down past his ankles, so the feet were completely covered. As he was clicking his long, rugged fingernails together, he said with a crackling voice, "It's good to finally see some customers. They usually run off just looking in the window. Sorry, pardon my lack of manners. How may I help you?" "Yes, you can start by telling us what you're selling and if it's legal," Tom brusquely barked. "I am a universal collector. I have traveled all around the world and beyond," the old man said calmly, unaffected by Tom's demanding tone. "The laws of your state, or even your world, do not apply to me." Then the old man looked at the couple and smiled, causing his wrinkles to crease. "If you tell me what you want, I am sure to have it." Tom and Rebecca looked at each other in disbelief. They wanted to ask for more clarity, but dared not to, thinking that he was highly unstable and might be a lunatic.
"My husband and I are having company over this weekend, and we're wondering if you have any type of games for us to play. You know, to keep our guests entertained."
"As a matter of fact, I do," the strange man uttered. "Wait here, and I'll get it for you." The old man came back with an old, dusty wooden box that looked like it hadn't been handled in years. Tom took a dirty rag that was lying on the counter and wiped off the top to show the title. Game of Destiny.
"Game of Destiny,"
Rebecca added.
"I never heard of it."
"Neither have I. Is it a good game?" Tom inquired. The clerk smiled with a sinister grin. "You will remember this game for the rest of your life."
"Is it hard to play?" Rebecca asked reluctantly. "They're only staying with us for 2 days."
"Yeah, any longer, and they'll kill each other," Tom interjected. The couple started to laugh at Tom's remark, but the old man had no expression. "The game is easy to play, but the hardest part is after you finish." Then the old man began to laugh, a deep, growling laugh, which made the couple very disturbed by his statement. The old merchant was in his own little world now, and Tom thought about what kind of world that might be. Chapter 2. Tom opened the box and began setting up the game on the table. When he got to the very bottom of the box, he found a book. The book was entitled Book of Destiny. When Tom opened the book, he found the instructions. The instructions of the game were written inside the cover of the book. It had a warning at the very bottom. Danger! Read the Book of Destiny first before attempting to play the game of destiny. Tom skimmed through the book and realized this is the Bible retitled. Ernie said, "I ain't listening to or reading no Bible." Laura and Katie agreed with Ernie. "Let's just read the instructions," Laura suggested. Tom was frustrated, and it showed as he yanked open the cover again. "Fine. Well, let's begin. Choose your game pieces." Tom and Ernie chose the 2 hourglasses. Laura chose the sun. Katie chose the moon. Hank chose the cross, and Rebecca chose the crowned heart. Although she found it disgusting, at the same time, she found it strangely beautiful.
Whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things that are of good report, if there's anything in virtue, and if there's anything of praiseworthy, meditate on these things.
"What does this mean?"
I don't understand.
Laura muttered.
Can anybody read the card and tell me what this means?
When Laura passed the card around, the card was blank. Nobody saw the picture or the riddle. When she picked it up again, the picture was alive, and she saw herself being tortured and heard her own voice screaming in agony, as if it were really happening. Laura threw the card down on the table with trembling hands and slid her chair back. Everyone in the room was surprised by her reaction.
"What's wrong with you, Laura?"
Rebecca asked. Laura demanded,
"Where did you get this game?"
"We got it from a weird antique shop." "Why?" "I saw myself in the picture of the card being tortured, and I heard myself screaming in torment." "What kind of game is this?" Laura said, still in shock.
"You sissy," Katie said. "Now it's my turn. Let me show you how it's done."
"Yeah, Katie's a genius when it comes to board games and crossword puzzles," Ernie bragged. When Katie picked up the card, she realized it was blank.
"I don't see a picture."
Then she slammed the card back down.
"You will,"
Laura assured her. When Katie picked it up again, it was still blank.
"Hey, this card has nothing on it." "Tom, you idiot, you've been gypped."
Suddenly, in a low whisper, she heard her name. Then, when she looked around, the riddle unexpectedly appeared.
"Let us walk properly as in day, not in revelry and drunkenness, not in lewdness and lust, not in strife or envy." What does it mean? What the hell?
Katie stormed to her feet.
"How much did you pay to have this game made to humiliate me?" "Oh, and the voice calling my name? Nice touch. Where's the tape recorder? Underneath the table? Just sit back down and answer another riddle, brave one,"
Laura mocked. Katie read the riddle, and afterward had a puzzled look on her face.
"I can't understand this riddle at all," she finally admitted.
Just then, she heard a familiar voice screaming. Her own. When she looked down at the card, she saw herself in utter torment. Then she heard herself screaming again and again, so loud it sounded like a stereo blasting. Katie threw the card down and ran out of the room. Ernie ran after her. He followed her outside into the patio and gazed into the distant night sky. Cool breezes flowed through her hair as she slowly relaxed. "What's wrong, honey? I never saw you act like this before. What's gotten into you? It's just a board game, for crying out loud."
I need a drink,"
Katie said finally.
"I wonder if there are any bars or liquor stores close by."
I know what you mean.
"No, you don't. But you will."
Ernie was up to bat. He picked up the card, and although it was blank, he knew it was more than meets the eye. He waited for something extraordinary to happen, and then it did. The small voice said. Ernie knew by the two women where the voice was coming from, and so he looked down at the card, and the riddle appeared. "For we have spent enough time in our past lifetime in doing the will of the Gentiles, when we walked in lewdness, lusts, drunkenness, revelry, drinking parties, Abominable idolatries. What does it mean? Ernie thought about it for a while and finally said, I have no idea what this means. I assume it's of no use showing any of you what's on my card because you won't be able to see it. Ernie smiled at Katie and said, See, babe, I'm better than you at this game. Just then, he met with an unexpected twist. He saw himself screaming in torment, but he wasn't mentally prepared for it. The picture froze him in complete terror, and the scream sent chills up and down Ernie's spine. Ernie grabbed his coat and said, Come on, Katie, we're leaving. I am right behind you, Katie said. I'm not playing this twisted game anymore. But when they walked out of the front door and proceeded down the steps, they were met by an invisible wall, which almost knocked them down like bowling pins. They could feel the cold air and smell the pungent aroma of cookouts, and could even see and hear the dogs barking as the owners walked them by. Ernie and Kay began pounding on the invisible wall, but no one could hear them except for the dogs. The more the dogs barked in Ernie and Katie's direction, the more the owner yanked the chain to go on. What's going on out here? Tom demanded. Yeah, what the hell's all this screaming? Laura asked. We can't go down the steps, Katie explained. We can't leave. We'll see about that. I'm trying the back door, Ernie spoke up. Rebecca followed Ernie to the back door just to see him smack into yet another invisible wall. The others ran back inside where they were reunited. They began opening the windows and tried to reach their arms out, but even the windows were blocked off. The entire house was barricaded by an invisible wall, and they knew exactly what put it there. Although Tom removed Ernie and Katie's game pieces off the board, when everyone re-entered the room, the game looked as if it had never even been touched. Everybody's game pieces were exactly where they left off at, including Ernie's and Katie's. When Rebecca read the rules again, she discovered that Tom overlooked one important rule. When the game of destiny is activated, it has to be completed. It has to have a winner. Well, somehow one of us has to start getting some riddles right, Hank said. Since it's my turn, let me give it a try. The same unusual events happened. Like previously, Hank picked up a blank card. That mysterious voice called his name, followed by a riddle that appeared. He knew the consequences of getting the riddle wrong. He will not only see his own torment, but he might even be trapped in this house forever. There is none righteous, not one. There is none who understands. There is none who seeks after God. They all turned aside. They all together became unprofitable. There is none who does good. No, not one. Their throat is an empty tomb. With their tongues they have practiced deceit. Is there any hope for the human race? What does it mean? Although it was a fair question, it was a complicated one. He thought in his head, I don't know. Hank heard screams as he looked down. He had seen himself screaming in agony. He quickly closed his eyes and slowly opened them, and the card went blank again. Hank lowered his head in defeat and put his card in the pile. It's your turn, son. Tom picked up the card, wishing he had never gotten the stupid game. After the voice and the riddle appeared, he was puzzled. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things were made by him, and nothing was made without him. In there were life, and that was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has no power over it. What does this mean? After a few moments, Tom looked at his wife with a disappointed look on his face and shook his head. The picture of himself terrified him to his very core. He quickly put the card down in the discarded pile and buried his head in his hands. Rebecca picked up the card nervously, not knowing what to expect, and she felt all the weight upon her shoulders. She didn't even know what kind of riddle it would be. Then a breeze came from nowhere and soothed her, and she closed her eyes. A gentle voice whispered her name. As a reaction, she said, "Yes, Lord," and she looked as if she was in a trance. Then she opened her eyes and saw the riddle. Who has gone up to heaven and come back down? Who can hold the wind in his hand? Who can gather up the waters in his coat? Who has set in place the ends of the earth? What is his name or his son's name? Tell me if you know. What was his name or his son's name? The riddle triggered a distant memory in Rebecca's childhood. Most of her childhood, she was in Sunday school,